Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. General Hospital sees Britt Westbourne's Kelly Thiebaud name dropping recently, and lots of questions about Rocco Falconeri's Fincar origin story bubbling up, and that could mean twists afoot since we know Kelly Thiebaud is back in July. Alright, with just a few weeks before Kelly Thiebaud's return to GH, there's still the lingering question of who she's going to play. Is General Hospital going to find a way to bring Britt back from the dead? Even if they undid her death by Heather Weber's Allie Mills hook stabbing and the poison on the hook, there's still the fact her character had Huntington's disease, which is incurable. The writers would have to say Britt was misdiagnosed or something, because to invent a fictional cure to a real-life dire illness would be tacky and probably wouldn't fly with fans. Or maybe they're going to bring in Kelly Thiebaud to play a recast of an existing character. However, that seems like a long shot, because Britt's name is coming up again, and her photo and Brooklyn Quartermain Amanda Setton is looking into Britt's tangled past with Lulu Spencer Alexa Havens Bruning. So, with BLQ looking for a way to get vengeance on Lulu for what she did, ruining her son Gio's life, this Britt thing is obviously important. So now I'm honestly wondering if they're going to try and bring back Britt with some wonky rewrite of her death, or maybe we're going to get a Britt Westbourne twin twist. I mean, let's face it, GH loves to do twins. We've had so many instances where an evil twin or a doppelganger popped up out of nowhere. You know, often there's a good twin and an evil twin. We have had the Rivera brothers. We have had the Alcazar brothers, the Ruiz brothers. Those were minor. And then we've had some bigger ones. You know, kindly Kevin Collins, John Lindstrom, and his evil twin serial killer Ryan Chamberlain, also John Lindstrom. Anna Devane, Finola Hughes, and Wicked Alex Devane, also Finola Hughes, were twinsies. And of course, crazy wicked Nell Hayes, Chloe Lanier, and weak-minded but sweet at heart Willow Tate, Catalin McMullen. And then there's Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, and Drew Kane Cameron Matheson. You know, for a while, Jason seemed like the more wicked one as a mob enforcer and hitman. But ever since his prison stint, Drew has turned out to be the evil twin everybody hates. And then, of course, Luke Spencer Anthony Geary had that doppelganger. Bill Eart looked just like him, plus his wicked other, side personalities when he did. So yeah, General Hospital loves good and evil twins, secret twins, twins we'd never heard of. So they could give Britt a twin to bring Kelly Thiebaud back, and maybe it's a twin who has info about this Rocco thing. It's totally doable because we met Britt as a fully formed adult, and there's not a ton of details about her origin story. There's been passing mentions of her upbringing. Of course, she knew her mom, Lissel Obrecht Kathleen Gotti, and her father, Caesar Faison Andershove. So, it wasn't like she didn't know her parents or anything. And then, of course, Britt had a brother, Nathan West Ryan Pavey, that was raised by her aunt, Madeline Reeves Donna Mills, another psycho, because Lissel didn't want Nathan subjected to crazy Faison's awfulness. But Britt knew him even if they weren't raised as siblings or anything, So who's to say Lissel didn't have twins and raised the other apart from Britt? Possibly apart from Faison. There's lots of options. I do remember quite distinctly how much Lissel Obrecht loved Caesar Faison like obsessively. But he had that long-running fixation on Anna, and that drove Dr. O crazy. So, Lissel could have had twin girls and hid one from Faison, or they might have split them. Anything is possible with Lissel and Faison. Maybe he forced Lissel to give him one of the twins, and they each raised one. Britt knew the twin, or didn't know the twin. Lots of options. It'd be awesome if Britt has a twin that was even more wicked than she was at her worst point. I mean, the Britch was a villainess in her own right, especially when she first came on the scene on General Hospital. But she wasn't like pure malevolent evil like Faison wanted her to be. Britt never pleased her father in that way. And then, of course, he died after killing his son Nathan. Just a horrible monster. And by the time Britt herself died, she was pretty much a good guy. She had stopped the scheming and all the devious ways. So, I think it would be wildly fun if Britt's awful twin turned up and freaked out everybody in Port Charles. So, with Brooke Lynn and Marco Rios Adrian on Condo researching Britt, they may find out she's got a twin we didn't know about. That could lead to another bombshell about Rocco, because he's got a backstory that's all twisted up with Britt that he probably doesn't even know about. I mean, why would anyone tell Rocco the bizarre story of his birth? And is there a chance that will change around with Kelly Thiebaud coming back? We all know Brooke Lynn hired attorney Marco to do some research on Britt. So he dug in, and Marco came over to report to Brooke Lynn, but he's also curious why she's looking into Britt since she is a dead woman. And Brooke Lynn told Marco she is going to prove that Lulu is not half the mother she says she is. And then Brooke Lynn told Marco about how Britt was desperate to have a baby with her then-boyfriend Patrick Drake Billy Thompson and turned up pregnant. Britt later said Patrick wasn't the dad and Brad Cooper was. And then later Nicholas Cassadine, then Tyler Christopher, got pulled into it. Britt gave birth to a son she named Ben on the floor at Windermere, and Elizabeth Weber Rebecca Herbst had some suspicion. She ran a DNA test on the baby at General Hospital, and it tested as a match for Dante, Falconer Dominic Samprogna, which caused a bunch of confusion. And it ultimately came out Britt had stolen an embryo that Lulu and Dante had in storage, and none of her other embryos were viable after that. That's why they just have the one kid. However, GH could either undo the DNA test that Liz did or pretend it never happened. I mean, we have seen GH ignore history and undo history way too many times, some of them pretty recently. So maybe they're going to change it up and have Rocco really be Britt's child with somebody. And Rocco's not Dante and Lulu's kid after all. That'd be wild. It would be some big karmic backlash on Lulu if Rocco turned out not to be hers, and Brooke Lynn is the only one who's given birth to Dandy's biological child. And of course, when Brooke Lynn unpacked the bizarre story about Rocco and Britt, we saw Marco was just like, what? He was totally blown away. And now BLQ wants to get her hands on Rocco's original birth certificate to see what it says. So, the Ben birth certificate, I guess. And when Marco was asking for more info, Brooke Lynn said that she's paying him to get her what she wants, and then she'll choose what she does with what he finds out. So GH could twist it that the embryo that Britt stole from Lulu Spencer and Dante didn't take, and she was actually pregnant by Patrick. Kind of like when Maxie Jones Kirsten Storms was a surrogate, but then turned up pregnant by Damian Spinelli Bradford Anderson, for Lulu. So, and they mentioned that the other day as well. So that's just why that's on my mind. But if for some reason Britt actually did get pregnant by Patrick, that would make Emma and Rocco half-siblings, which would be really wild. If they somehow undo Rocco's paternity, it would crush Lulu. So we'll see what BLQ and Marco find out. If Rocco really is Britt's child, I'm quite certain Brooke Lynn would rub it in Lulu's face and make sure that Dante knew. Because, as Lulu herself said, Dante deserves to know the truth about his son. Of course, exposing it would devastate Rocco. And if this is where the story is going and Britt's gone, it would parallel Joe having a dead mom. I'm guessing BLQ would tell Dante and Lulu in private and not have it come out publicly. That would be absolutely explosive and extremely soapy. It'd be interesting. And if Kelly Thiebaud is playing Britt somehow miraculously not dead or a twin of hers that might have some information about what went on with Britt, that would be interesting. With her name coming up so much, it seems like she's definitely got to be Britt, or at least Britt adjacent. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us.